Okay. Welcome, everybody, to our online Macrobiotic Winter Conference 2021. Boy, in which century do I live? um, but yeah, so welcome. And we are going in a new direction, it seems. And this conference has a lot of wonderful speakers that speak about all different topics and dynamics that we hope will be of really a lot of interest and not only interesting but will really serve you well in this coming time. Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Bettina, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Online Macrobiotic Winter Conference. The conference is sponsored by Planetary Health Incorporated, which is a nonprofit that was started about 20 years ago, and our initial activities had to do with protecting the natural food supply, especially the introduction of genetically engineered rice in California, which was successfully stopped. Over the years, Planetary Health has been involved in many publishing and educational activities. And when the Kushi Institute closed down, took over the Macrobiotic Summer Conference, and then has expanded to the Winter Conference. And then this past year, we started a medical study in cooperation with the local hospital here in the Berkshires on diabetes and macrobiotic approach. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we weren't unable to conduct it in person. So we're hopeful this spring that at least the educational part of that study will be done online, classes with diabetic patients throughout Berkshire County. And then most recently, we have also started a new film documentary project called The Spirit of Rice. And we'll be talking about that in the course of the next few days. With us is Mark Leonis, who is one of the committee members. He'll be telling you more about that project. He'll be one of the moderators during the mealtime open discussions. So anyway, thank you again for participating, and we're looking forward to a really exciting event over the next few days.
And I would like to just for a moment talk about a few things about housekeeping, so to speak. During the presentation part of the sessions, we ask that you mute yourself. And muting yourself means that you go to that speaker button and basically make it so that it's crossed out. So there you have a choice to mute it or unmute it. After the presentation part, there is oftentimes question and answers. So for that part, of course, you're welcome if you wish to ask a question to unmute yourself. But because many times there are background sounds, we would prefer if you, during the presentation, kept yourself muted. You can change the view of your screen by, in my case, it's up on the top right of the screen. There's a little button that says view, and you have a choice of gallery view or speaker view. Then in the speaker view, the speaker has a bigger window, and in the gallery view, you can see a lot of people all at once. And if there are more than, I don't know, 20 people or so, then it will go to the next page. We will record all the sessions. The recorded sessions will be available likely after the conference, maybe at the end of the day, but I'm not sure. We have so many different sessions this time each day that I'll do my best to keep up with it, but if I don't quite get to sending everything out, then I please ask you to wait for the recording until Monday or Tuesday, by which time you should be able to get all the links. Let's see. We have also made a change in terms of, or I have made a change in terms of the Zoom links. There is one Zoom link for each day, so it's the whole day, the same Zoom link. That makes it easier, not having to send out that many emails. So yeah, tomorrow we'll use one link for the whole day from the morning session to the evening session. And then Saturday it's another link, and then Sunday it's another link. So 3 more links that you will be having sent to you, starting with one tonight. If you should have any trouble with any technical issues, then I would ask you for technical issues to contact Vladimir Ivanov. And I already sent everybody an email about that already. His phone number is 413-623-3359. And there's a WhatsApp phone number and his email, and I'll put that in the chat also. But I already sent everybody that information. And of course, if somebody could give me feedback that you have received that information that I sent out. Anybody? Did anybody see that?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I already also sent out for those people that are participating in the full conference. There is in the email that I already sent, there was a Word document attached with all the recipes. I kept them lightly edited as to keep the original flavor of the presenters and not completely, make it something different than who they are, but so that we can, see their light shine through their recipes. In the interactive sessions, whether they are the lunchtime sessions, the discussion sessions with Donna Clifford and Mark Leonas, or any other session with the presenter where there's a question and answer part, we ask you to please participate. And of course, we ask everybody to also be respectful to each other, no attacking, no divisive behavior. And it is okay to have different perspective and respecting other people's beliefs, so that there is no harm to anybody, that we all feel like we have a safe place and an enjoyable place to be. The schedule, I sent that to you already as well. And, or maybe it was, no, I think it's already, you already should have it, but you can also find it on the summer conference page. And that is the schedule as it stands, but there is always a possibility that there is some change last minute. We don't know, but we hope that everything works out well and goes according to plan. And I think that is what I have to share with you at this moment. Alex, is there anything else that you can think of that I did not touch on?
Yeah, for those who may not know about the chat room, they can they can click on the chat icon at the bottom of the screen, and then they have the opportunity to post a comment either to an individual who's participating in the session or to the whole group. And this is particularly helpful for questions in the case of presenters. Sometimes they take them at the end, sometimes as they're teaching. But anyway, it's a place to put questions very quickly. So please make use of the chat.
Yeah, so I'm actually putting his phone number, Vladimir's information, as I said, I'll put that in the chat, even though you should already have it, but just so that if you want the information, so, and his email will be there. Right. Okay. I hope you can see that.
Yes.
Good. I think then we're ready to go to the next part of our presentation, Alex. And for this part, I'll make you the host so that you can share the screen.
All right.
Okay.
Can you see the slideshow?
No, not yet.
Let's see.
There. Yes.
You can see that?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so again, welcome everyone. We're just going to briefly go through the sessions and comment very briefly on the teachers or the presenters. I think many of you know the teachers and the counselors, but for those of you who don't, Bettina and I will just mention a few words. So let's see if I can, okay. So tonight, that's our orientation. And the first class tomorrow, Bettina will be giving a cooking class, cooking for Candlemas. So Bettina, briefly, what is Candlemas?
Well, Candlemas is one of those special days of the year that is in between a solstice and an equinox. And just as there are four, two solstices, two equinoxes, there are four in between holidays, if you wish, or special days. Candlemas is basically one of them, just around the 1st of February. And of course, that is the celebrating the return of the light in traditional, more ancient traditions. It's called Imbolc. There are different names for it, but some others of these in-between holidays like Beltane, May 1st, or Halloween. Everybody is aware of that. That is, the 31st of October, or basically the 1st of November, but that time. So there are these in between times that are special times of the year to celebrate. And Candlemas is in the northern hemisphere, anyways, the beginning of the return of the light. And so I will make some what is it, leek quiche. And what else will I make? And I will make spicy broccoli with a little bit of a sauce. So those are the dishes that I will be preparing tomorrow morning for you.
Okay, sounds terrific. Okay, then in the late morning, I will be giving a class called The Face of Change 2021 and Beyond. And the title kind of glances at visual diagnosis. So I'll be looking at world leaders, beginning with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as the leaders of Russia, China, and other countries. Will be using not only visual diagnosis, but also 9-star key and several other approaches to kind of understand the coming year and to put it into perspective.
That should be very interesting. I'm looking forward to it. And then we will have the free discussion sessions with Donna and Mark. Donna and Mark, who are also on here tonight, and we can introduce them maybe in a little while when we can see everybody's face again. Donna is, of course, a long-time registered nurse, but also a long-time macrobiotic person, has studied for many years, and she has taught even when the Kushi Institute was still in place. She was teaching some classes at that time. And so during the summer conference, we had both of them host the first sessions, and they were so well liked that we asked them to do it again. And so thank you, Donna and Mark, for being willing to be there.
Yeah, please bring your lunch. And it's a very informal session where you can get up and go and come and go and whatever. But it was really one of the most dynamic parts of our summer conference, way beyond our expectations. And so we've actually expanded now for both the lunch and the dinner times. And Bettina mentioned Donna's background. Mark is a teacher, an educator, and worked with many students of all ages over the years. He's also a filmmaker. And again, he'll be telling you about the exciting new Spirit of Rice film project that we're working on. All right, so the next one is early afternoon tomorrow. Go ahead, Bettina.
I'm sorry. So Alice Fava is doing a cooking class in the early afternoon from 2 to 3:30. And Alice's background is, of course, from Italy. And so she has decided to present some special Italian favorites, squash gnocchi, or I'm not sure how you pronounce that in English, but and arugula or green gnocchi or gnocchi. And while she was going to do a chestnut cake, but she just actually emailed me saying that that won't happen because the chestnut flour that she ordered is not, because of all the delays with the mail that we've been experiencing here in the US. I don't know in other places, but and she's in Canada, but I guess it's the same thing. So the chestnut flour did not make it, and so she's going to make a different delicious dessert. So there will be a slight change.
Yeah, and her day job is she's a criminal attorney who lives in Toronto, and so she has many exciting stories about her activities in that direction. She's helped many people in prison and introducing macrobiotics. And anyway, maybe that's for another time, but she has a multi-background. All right, next one. Okay, Tom Monte, I think everybody knows Tom. Tom is an author, teacher, a motivational speaker, really dynamic and I don't know, usually reduces his audience to tears. So make sure you bring enough Kleenex. He's going to be talking about a special project that he's just launched in South Africa for children. And so it's an exciting venture and really looking forward to this presentation. Anything about Tom, Bettina?
Well, I think Tom, Tom has a lot to offer in many different directions, and he really looks at everything also from the perspective, not only what the mental perspective, but definitely what feels right and what, so that we're experiencing our world more from a holistic perspective, because in our world we have become so head heavy, but he really tries to bring everything back, or at least bring heart and head into an even level, so that it's not being locked in one side or the other, only in logic and reason or only in the heart, but carrying both. And in that he has, he is doing truly things that are incorporating incorporating both of those aspects, bringing them forth into the world.
Yeah, then at 5:30, I think it's on all 3 days, if I'm not mistaken, Masumi
Right.
Goldman will be leading yoga exercises. Masumi has taught at many of our conferences. She has a background as a stockbroker on Wall Street, among other things. She's an Instagram celebrity, lives in, New Jersey, has a large family. Anyway, and also she's just published amazing series of books. So anyway, we're delighted to have Masumi for this session. So again, bring your yoga mat and work out with Masumi.
And I asked Masumi not to make, the most, to not make it as aerobic or, like really advanced, but really more basic yoga that helps us to align with ourselves, so that we're not trying to twist anybody into strange positions that could hurt you, but, rather to center you, to make you feel good and to align your energies.
Okay, then in the evening, our keynote speaker is Maggie Cottrell. I think everybody knows Maggie. She's just celebrating her 93rd year. She lives in Florida, and she's a medical doctor. She was the director of medical center at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York for many years. She worked closely with Micho and accompanied him to Africa and lectured to the World Health Organization. They wrote a book together, which is the standard textbook on AIDS and diet. She won the Michokushi Peace Prize a couple years ago, and she can still talk to everybody under the table. So we're delighted to have Maggie with us.
Alex, there's somebody who's trying to get into the conference. Do you see a thing of admit somebody? Because I made you host and I cannot admit anybody.
I can't see, and no, I don't see anything.
Okay, then.
Okay, then beginning on Saturday morning, the introductory cooking class will be by Yarka Adamkova and Karel Bekvar. They'll be teaching in Amsterdam. Actually, they're both from the Czech Republic. And they're two of my closest friends in Europe. They were the kind of the backbone of the Kushi Institute for 20 years, Kushi Institute of Europe. And they both are teachers, counselors. They kept the place humming. It's totally amazing. And they're wonderful cooks. I've eaten their food with them for years. And they just opened a new Macrobiotic store and mail order operation in Europe called Tampopo, which is the Japanese word for dandelion. And anyway, I hope they tell you about that. Please ask them about their activities. Anyway, they're a very dynamic couple, and we're delighted to have them.
Yeah, so I spoke with Carell, and I, of course, saw their recipes, and yeah, it's going to be a great session, I'm sure. And this morning, actually, I spoke with Oliver Calmetto, and so he's very excited about sharing with all of you. And I think because he's going to speak about the cycles of life really from his experience, and so that should be really interesting as well. Okay, that is Barbara. Barbara is a young woman who has just done her master's or maybe more, I forget, but in psychology. And she's from Chile. She was studying and working at the Kushi Institute quite a few years ago, but has kept her macrobiotic practice during all this time. And yeah, she's really a fabulous young woman, and I'm looking forward to her recipes. She actually just sent some pictures, but I don't have them here right now, or not on my computer anyways. But we'll take a look.
Yeah, then Neil Bernard will speak. I can't even read the time because of the pictures on top.
4 to 5:30.
What time is it? 4 to 30. Yeah, I've got it. Okay. Yeah, Neil, I think, as many of you know, is the founder of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, which is an international group of physicians devoted to diet and holistic health. He's a best-selling author. He's written many, many books on holistic health. And he received the Michokushi Peace Prize a couple years ago. He's macrobiotic, and he's going to give a tremendous presentation. Okay, then again, yoga with Masumi before dinner.
And then after dinner, we'll have Jessica Porter with the Laws of Change. Jessica Porter, I think most of you are familiar with her, certainly as the hip chick of macrobiotics, one of her very famous books. But she is both an entertainer, and she has hosted many macrobiotic conferences, is always fun to listen to. And she, at the same time, can be very serious in going into depth with information. So it's always fascinating to follow her.
She has an unusual combination of being a comedian and a deep thinker. It's amazing. I must say, I think she's always been at the top of my list for her presentations. Really wonderful person. And then beginning Sunday morning, Marlene from London will be giving a cooking class, Veganize Your Cultural Family Favorites. Marlene is a force of nature. She was at our conference at Eastover a couple years ago with her husband, Bill Terra, and she kind of stole the whole conference with her energy. She ended up leading everybody, you know, in mantras, and, you know, she'd make up on the spur of the moment, and I don't know, really amazing woman. And she's been vegan for, I don't know, like 25 years. And maybe you can tell a little bit about her recipes, Tina.
Well, her recipes are really quite, you know, rich, and in this case, she's really trying to make traditional recipes into vegan recipes. I mean, traditional either meat or dairy recipes into the recipes that are vegan. And I think you'll enjoy that as well. But I think she'll have many good tips on how to change over other, you know, your own favorite recipes as well.
Okay, then mid-morning on Sunday, we'll have a healing forum with Virginia Harper and Bettina and myself. Virginia runs a Macrobiotic Center in Nashville. She healed herself, I think, as many of you know, of colitis, an unhealable condition, basically 25 years ago. And ever since, she's been focusing on digestive problems. And I think of all of the counselors in the macrobiotic community, she's the one that counselors go to when they get sick, quite apart from the many thousands of people that she has healed around the world. She's totally spectacular as a counselor. And so really looking forward to what she has to say. So please prepare your questions, whatever subjects, COVID, vaccines, women's health, children's health. Anyway, anything further, Bettina?
I mean, she always is on the cutting edge of information, any kind of medical information. So Virginia is really fabulous to listen to if you want to know, you know, any of the, at least some of the latest news. And yeah, so we're looking forward to your questions, to, you know, what you wish us to talk about, and we will address those issues from our perspectives.
Yeah, then at the end of that session, the last 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to do a mini auction to benefit planetary health. So we've had several items that we've prepared, just 3 items. And so we can hopefully do it within 10 or 15 minutes. The first item is these beautiful note cards prints that Bettina has prepared. Do you want to say a little bit about those, Bettina?
Okay, the value was a little bit overrated, but thank you. I think it should be 59, but anyway, that's fine.
Yeah, I've got dyslexia. I reversed the digit.
So yeah, so these are, you know, basically cards with envelopes from artwork that I've made, and you have seen them at the summer conference, at the auction before, I believe, or at least some of them. This may be a little different selection, but it is either watercolor, oil color, oil or oil crayon paintings that I've done, that I've made into note cards that you can send out, especially since, you know, sometimes now during COVID and we can't visit family members. If you have a nice card that you can send to somebody, they really do appreciate that, as I know that I have really enjoyed getting some cards this winter.
And then the second item is a special book collection focusing books related to rice in some way. And these include the Golden Dream Cookbook with Bettina's new recipes and a little bit of commentary by me. Spiral of History, Rice Revolution. That's Bettina's son there pictured. Also on is the new Organic Healing with Rice. There are 4 or 5 others, and hopefully Donna Clifford, who is our moderator during the mealtime, just written a very beautiful book. We can add that to the collection as well. So that's the second item. And then the third item is an EMF meter. So EMF, of course, is a major health concern, electromagnetic radiation, electromagnetic fields. And so if you, you bid and receive the meter, you'll be able to hold it in front of your computer for our next conference at a safe distance. So hopefully that'll be not too far away. All right. Then after the lunchtime break with Don and Mark, then we reconvene with Anna. Bettina, please introduce Anna again.
So Anna Schliemann is originally from Switzerland. She has been a chef, regular chef and pastry chef, dessert chef at the Kushi Institute, and has decided also to, do this on her own. So she is a chef. She's living now in the Washington, D.C. area. And yeah, she is an excellent dessert chef. We've had her at the summer conference doing the desserts for us, the dessert for the cafe, and people always, love them. They always disappear before the evening. And so she is going to show us several desserts of her fabulous desserts, and she's also very, very clear on the instructions how to really make the desserts work well so that they come out in a way that is absolutely fabulous. So I think we'll enjoy her class a lot. But as I said, I'm just going to finish this. As I said, she was also trained as a pianist, so she is a very creative soul.
Then later in the afternoon, Edward Esco will be giving a session on 9-star key predictions. I think he'll be talking about both personal predictions for the 9 energies, as well as perhaps some social predictions for the world and the country as a whole. Anyway, he's always very interesting and dynamic, so please mark that on your calendar, Sunday afternoon. Then once again, there'll be yoga with Masumi, and then the dinner break with Donna and
there will be no that will be a free break there.
Okay, so we're not going to do that session then. Okay. But then in the evening, the conference will conclude with Naomi, who will be giving a cooking class, Nourish Your Microbiome. And Naomi is an amazing cook. Is she in Japan now, or is she here, Bettina?
She is in Japan, and she will be live streaming from Japan for us. So she will, at least that is my understanding. And yeah, in fact, I'm sure of it.
Okay, anyway, she was one of the big hits of the summer conference with her, what was it, the sushi class, which she gave with her mother. And so we're
actually, it was
umaboshi. Umaboshi. I'm sorry. Yeah, she put the ume in the rice sushi. Okay, so anyway, that's our lineup. Then just for future events, please mark the date, Sunday, May 23rd, for our annual Michokushi birthday celebration. This will be a free event. We haven't decided the exact time, but it's close to Micho's birthday, which is on the 17th of May. And traditionally, they're reminiscences of Micho and stories. And anyway, it's a 2 or 3 hour, it's a free event, right, Bettina, or donation perhaps?
I mean, if anybody, of course, wishes to donate, we really do appreciate that, but we have made it a free event, yes.
Yeah, anyway, it's officially, we call it the One Peaceful World Day, celebrating his life and his legacy. And then the online, the Macrobiotic Conference this year, we've decided once again to make it online. Hopefully the pandemic will begin to reduce or lessen by the summer, but I think it's more prudent to prepare for an online event. And again, the dates are to be decided probably in August, but anyway, we'll be posting those probably sometime in the next few weeks. Okay, and that's just a list of our many websites. Our newest one is www.coronavirusanddiet.com. It's a dedicated website devoted to the pandemic and dietary approaches and natural remedies. And Vladimir, who's been the technical person for this conference, is managing that site for us. He's my son-in-law. He's actually in Russia, and with my daughter, they have an organic farm, and their website is at the bottom there, called gomacrobiotic.com, and it's in English, so please check it out. They're also making a Russian version this winter, which will hopefully go online soon. So those are just some of our many websites. There's Bettina's website, culinarymedicineschool.com, and summer conference site, and several others. And at the bottom, there's the link for the fundraising for the film documentary, which Mark will be telling you a little bit further about as we go along. All right, so that's our rundown for this part of the evening. So back to you, Bettina.
All right, now we have a lot of people that are joining us. Oh well, couldn't enter them earlier because I wasn't host, but that's how it is. Okay, so let us, Donna and Mark, if you're there, if you would just quickly say hello to everybody. If you would unmute yourself and just introduce yourself, that would be wonderful.
Hi, everybody. I'm Donna from Salem, Massachusetts. Nice to be with all my friends.
It's good to have you. Thank you for doing this, Donna. That's much appreciated.
And I'm Mark from East Hampton, Massachusetts, and good to be here again. Glad to see that we have such a good turnout and familiar faces and new faces that we'll hopefully get to know. And sounds like we've, from your summary, we're really going to have a great conference.
All right, very good. So next, what we were going to do is we're going to take a moment and a moment of silence to think about those people that we know that may have passed. I mean, today, for example, for me, this is also the day that was my grandmother's birthday always. And she would be what? Maybe she was born in 1903. So she would be 117, something like this. She would be quite old now, but anyway, there are some people that we know that were well known in the macrobiotic community that have passed away. that we wish to mention. Gwen Keston, who used to help us at the conferences, even at the real conferences at Eastover. She has passed away, unfortunately. That was quite a shock to us, yeah. And also Geraldine Walker. Alex, can you say a little bit more about her?
Yeah, Geraldine was a longtime Macrobiotic teacher and counselor in Philadelphia. She and her husband Stan taught together for many, many decades in Philadelphia and all over the world. And there was a beautiful memorial service for her just a few days ago with lovely tribute. So we miss Geraldine. And I'm sure there are other friends who have also passed away who should be also remembered. Also, I think we should take a moment of silence and also remember all of the relatives, friends, neighbors, and people who have passed away during the pandemic. It's really been a horrendous toll all over the world. So let's just take a minute to remember all of our friends and wish them light and peace.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. And then we have a few more things coming up. I would like to share an excerpt of an interview with a young woman. I have shared that with some people via email already, and maybe you have seen it, maybe you have not, but to me, she is, quite interesting. Well, there are many of these younger people that are incarnating on the planet right now that have a much greater understanding of our world, of also many of the dimensions that, we, as we see our world, we see it in the 3 dimensions and that's it. We have so focused on these that we don't notice anything else anymore. But many of these younger people are quite aware of many more dimensions that are there, and they can see the less dense etheric energies, just like Michio saw them. And so she is one of them. And so I'm going to share an excerpt of what she has to say. This interview was held in German. I put English undertitles so you can see the English undertitles. Give me a moment. So this is Christina von Dreyen. She is a young woman from Switzerland. And yeah, very young woman. She's only 19, but she has quite some interesting things to say. And she's written several books by now, is very well known in the European countries. I mean, her books have been translated in all languages. However, in America, she hasn't found somebody who is publishing her books, unfortunately. So the books are only available right now via Kindle. Very difficult if you want to order them from Europe. You know, you can wait months and maybe they won't arrive anyway. So, but yeah. So.
Weil die Erde, die hat ja beschlossen, dass sie in eine höhere Schwingung geht. Und wenn die Erde das beschlossen hat, dann wird das ja auch so passieren. Wir können ja nicht einen Planeten aufhalten.
Obwohl manchmal denken wir, das könnten wir, aber.
Und das ist ja wie mit der Liebe, da die Erde sich entschieden hat, ihre Schwingung zu erhöhen, gehen wir ja wieder mehr der Liebe entgegen. Und Liebe, die kann man ja auch nicht aufhalten. Die kann man ja nur verzögern. Und die Maßnahmen, die jetzt so sind mit der ganzen Geschichte, die gerade ist, das ist wie eine Verzögerung, dass etwas komplizierter wird, aber nicht, dass man es aufhalten kann.
Du hast ein neues Buch, was ich leider noch nicht habe. Das heißt, am Ende wird alles gut, oder so ähnlich jedenfalls. Aber du hast auch in dem anderen Seminar darüber gesprochen, dass es unheimlich hilfreich ist, sich vorzustellen oder dass du dieses Bild hast, dass am Ende alles gut wird und dass die Liebe auf der Erde sich verbreitet und dass es alles schön wird und dass man dieses Bild im Hinterkopf oder vielleicht auch im Vorderkopf behält, dass einem das nicht verloren geht, denn du sagst, je mehr wir uns auf etwas konzentrieren, desto mehr desto mehr geben wir in diese Richtung, dass es sich leichter manifestiert. Ist das richtig, oder?
Ja, also wenn wir uns das ja vorstellen, das Bild, und wir haben ein Gefühl dazu, dann fangen wir ja an, wie das zu manifestieren, weil wir denken dann zwar dran, aber das, was es dann manifestiert, das sind die Gefühle.
Also die Gefühle sind ganz, ganz wichtig, wenn wir uns etwas vorstellen, was wir gerne manifestieren wollen. Ohne die Gefühle ist es nicht...
Das ist wie ein Handy, wo keinen Strom hat.
Okay. Okay, so that's one part. I mean, I just, wish to put that out there again. Many of the younger people that are really here to help our planet move in the right direction, they all talking about that this planet is raising its frequency and that this planet is going towards love and that, basically we cannot stop the love. I mean, and sometimes, it looks like everything gets worse before it gets better. But to remember that ultimately we are going towards a better direction, and that it's really, really important, like she said, to use our emotions along with our thoughts if we wish to manifest something. So when we imagine something wonderful, to really use our feelings completely and not just, say something or just, not just have an image without any feeling, because that's not going to do what we wish it to accomplish. Let me see here. And then there's another excerpt, a quick one. Let's see.
Also es ist ja eigentlich wie mit dem, von dem ganzen Lichtspektrum, was es ja gibt. Da sehen wir nur einen ganz kleinen Ausschnitt. Und alles andere sehen wir ja nicht. Und trotzdem ist es da. Und mit den Elementarwesen, das ist genau gleich. Sie sind einfach auf einer Ebene, die die meisten Menschen nicht mehr sehen können. Und wenn wir jetzt zum Beispiel Bäume fällen, dann ist es gut, wenn man ein paar Tage, bevor man den Baum fällt, dass man zu dem Baum hingeht und dem Elementarwesen dort sagt, dass man den Baum fällt und dass sie doch bitte, dass sie das wissen und dass sie jetzt schon gehen können. Und dann ziehen die Elementarwesen aus und sonst irgendwo wieder ein. Ja, dann sind sie vorgewarnt und können gehen, und wenn dann wir als Menschen kommen und den Baum fällen, dann ist das Elementarwesen schon weg.
Und du hast auch gesagt, dass wir uns nicht mehr daran erinnern oder nicht mehr sie wahrnehmen. Aber in anderen Worten, es gab mal eine Zeit, wo wir sie wahrgenommen haben. Nicht in diesem Leben, aber zu einer anderen Zeit dieser Erde. Und es geht also darum, auch für uns, dass wir uns zurückerinnern an alles, was wir eigentlich wissen, von dem wir jetzt sozusagen abgeschnitten sind. Ist das richtig?
Ja, genau. Es gab ja eine Zeit auf der Erde, da war die Erde auch weniger dicht wie heute. Und die Menschen, also die dann da gelebt haben, die waren viel feinstofflicher und die hatten eben nicht vergessen. Und die Erde war da auch noch ein Paradies. Und wir haben ja auch diesen Wunsch in uns, dass die Erde wieder ein Paradies ist. Und dass wir diesen Wunsch überhaupt haben, muss ja bedeuten, dass wir das mal gesehen haben. Weil wir können uns ja nichts wünschen, was wir nicht kennen. Und wenn wir das nicht in dieser Inkarnation gesehen haben, dann halt in einer anderen. Aber wir haben diese Information in uns, dass es das geben kann. Und dieser Wunsch, dass es dann wieder so wird. Und wenn jetzt die Erde eben ihre Schwingung erhöht, und ihr Plan ist ja, dass sie wieder höher schwingt und dass dann wieder die Liebe auf diesem Planeten ist, dann wird es auch wieder so kommen, dass die Erde wieder schöner wird und dass die Menschen weniger vergessen. Weil Menschen sind aus meiner Sicht nicht dazu da, alles zu vergessen. Das ist jetzt einfach ja in dieser Zeit, in dieser Phase, in der wir gewesen sind und in der wir jetzt noch sind, dass es so war, dass die meisten Menschen vergessen haben, wenn sie hier inkarniert sind. Aber das Gute ist ja, dass alles im Leben nur eine Phase ist, außer das, aus dem das Universum wirklich besteht. Das ist ja Liebe.
Okay, so our universe consists of love, which I think is a wonderful reminder for all of us to, many of the religions, the core of the religions is reminding us of that, but it is, truly something that we have to remember, and that this information ultimately is also stored within us, and sometimes we just have to bring it back to the forefront.
Bettina,
Yes.
for the most part, we could not see the subtitles.
Really?
Right. They were below the screen. So could you translate a little bit more?
Sure. Give me a moment. What I will do is, I'm sorry. Nobody even said that, because
I could see them on my
You
screen.
could? Oh,
I could.
I know somebody else said they couldn't. On my computer, they were below.
okay.
I couldn't see them.
Okay,
Okay,
so some of us saw them and some didn't.
Well, give me a moment here. Oops.
Very
I
nice.
will read you what she has said real quick, because okay. Okay, let's see.
Was only the second.
The
Yeah,
second
the
part.
second one. I saw the first one, but the second one.
Okay, let me check on the second one. Let me see where that is. So she was talking about, in the second one, about that we only see a very small section, like we have, okay, here's what she said. We have to consider that we're only able to consciously perceive a tiny sliver of the broad band of the light spectrum, and everything else we're not able to see. At least that's true for most of us humans, and I'm adding that. But nonetheless, it exists. And with the elemental spirits, the etheric spirits, it is the same. They exist in a layer of dimensions which most human beings are not able to see. And then she says, and for example, if we cut down trees, in that case, it is helpful a few days before cutting down the tree that we go to the tree and let this tree spirit know that this tree will be cut down, so that they are please aware of this fact and they can leave. This way, the tree spirits can move out of the tree and they can move to another tree. Then they are forewarned and can leave. And when we humans are ready to cut down the tree, this tree spirit will already have left. And then she is. Then I said that we as humans, we do not remember everything anymore, because she was talking about that. She was talking about how at some point we did remember, but that there was a time in the history of our earth where everybody remembered everything and could also see into those different dimensions, and remembered all the history, not only the history of this life but of many other lives, and into the past, into your ancestors as well. And she says, yes, absolutely. There was a time in the history of our planet when the earth was less dense than today. And the humans, well, she says, the ones that lived at that time, not like humans today, but they had a more subtle or etheric energy body, and they did not forget. And the earth was like a paradise at that time. And we also have this innate desire that the earth becomes a paradise again. And because we carry that desire within us, means that at some point we have experienced this paradise, because we cannot wish for something that we do not know. And even if we have not experienced it in this incarnation, then we have experienced it in another one. However, this information is stored within us. And we have the desire that we will have a paradise again. And since our planet Earth is raising its frequency, and the plan is that the Earth is entering a higher vibration and that love reigns on our planet, then it will be so. The Earth will become beautiful once again, and humans will forget less and remember more. Because from my perspective, the purpose of humans is not to forget everything. Well, in this time and phase in which we're living now and in which we have been living, it has been the norm for humans to forget everything as soon as they incarnate on this planet. But the positive aspect is that everything in our life is only a phase, except for that of which the universe is made out of, and that is love.
Thank you.
All right, there we go. You are welcome. Alex, I think we will hear from you next.
Okay.
And Alex is going to share, I'm sure, a fantastic show on megalithic wisdom, macrobiotics, and America's destiny. Are you able to share your screen or?
Yep. Okay, do you have to make me host?
I guess I do. That's why I asked.
Okay, can you see that, Bettina?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, the controversy over the 2021 presidential election and the insurrection at the Capitol have shaken the foundations of democracy. As these events were unfolding, I was continuing my research and writing on a book that I've been working on called The Spiral of History, a multi-volume macrobiotic plant-based history of the world from ancient to modern times based on educator Michokushi's template that human events, like other natural phenomena, unfold according to a fractal yin-yang pattern. This winter, I started on book 4 in the series on the age of science, the American Revolution, and the founding of the United States. On New Year's Day, I discovered some personal and planetary links that I would like to share with you this evening. Shortly before he died, John Adams, the second president of the United States, placed an engraved stone on the grave of his ancestor, Henry Adams, in the burial ground of the Congregational Church in Quincy, Massachusetts. It stated, "In memory of Henry Adams, who took his flight from the dragon persecution in Devonshire in England and alighted with 8 sons near Mount Wollaston." After mentioning several of his forebears' family members, the tribute concludes, "This stone and several others have been placed in this yard by a great-great-grandson from a veneration of the piety, humility, simplicity, prudence, patience, temperance, frugality, industry, and perseverance of his ancestors in hopes of recommending an imitation of their virtues to posterity. According to historian Andrew Ruthovius, who wrote an article entitled The Addams Family and the Grail Tradition, the Untold Chronicle of the Dragon Persecution in East-West Journal, the Macrobiotic Monthly magazine, the little-known engraving is the key to understanding early American history and the Addams family's pivotal role. Quote, the Addamses sought to shape the national destiny in accordance with a spiritual vision they had inherited through more than 3,000 years of mental gestation at the center of the ancient megalithic people's zodiac on earth, amid the hills and moors near Glastonbury in southwestern England. Of course, he's referring to Stonehenge and Glastonbury. Henry Addams was part of a fellowship of free thinkers and visionaries dubbed the Dragons. They were centered in Devonshire, a county on the southwestern coast of England near Stonehenge and other ancient megalithic sites. Plymouth, a port in Devonshire, is where the Pilgrims left for the New World. And in New England, they named their colony Plymouth after the disembarkation port. The Dragons included explorer Sir Walter Raleigh, pictured in the lower left with Queen Elizabeth, astronomer Thomas Harriot, pictured above him on the stamp, Magus John Dee, and then poet Christopher Marlowe to the left. Their circle, also known as the School of Night in the Shakespearean play Love's Labour's Lost, was closely monitored by the Church of England and the Secret Service of Queen Elizabeth and King James. The term dragon derives from Draco, the largest constellation in the night sky. In megalithic times, Thuban, a star in Draco, served as the North Star, a symbol of perennial wisdom. The dragon also refers to ley lines or channels of natural electromagnetic energy connecting dolmens, standing stones, and other megalithic sites. Ruthovius said in his article, quote, a key tenet of this ancient wisdom was knowledge of the precession of the equinoxes, by which the rotation of the Earth's axis shifts the celestial North Pole in a vast circle that takes 26,000 years to complete. Unquote. Megalithic culture was oriented toward the divine feminine, and the mother goddess played a pivotal role as creator, nurturer, and healer of life. For most of human existence, as I've been trying to show in my book, Spiral of History, females, as gatherers of wild grains, greens, roots, and herbs, were in charge of the human food supply. According to archaeologists and anthropologists, life in prehistoric times was fundamentally egalitarian, harmonious, and peaceful. Men were in charge of hunting, but meat played a very small role in the true Paleolithic diet and was consumed primarily as a condiment, a supplement, or for festive occasions. In historical times, the situation completely reversed. The advent of agriculture led to the domestication of cattle, sheep, and goats, and because of their superior muscle strength, men took charge of farming and the food supply. The end result was regular consumption of animal food, and from all of that flowed the concept of property and ownership for land, for farming, and this led to the emergence of city-states, and then in turn this gave rise to monarchy, kings and queens and nobles and caste, patriarchy, slavery, and war. In addition to megalithic wisdom, Devonshire in southwest England was associated with the Arthurian tradition, King Arthur and his knights, the Holy Grail, the prophecies of Camelot, an ideal realm located, according to some, across the Western waters. The Church of England, as well as Catholicism in that era, held that the firmament, the stars, were fixed, and claims that the pole star changed, like the astronomical theories of Copernicus and Galileo, constituted heresy. Controlled by an all-male priesthood and clergy, both Catholicism and Protestantism demonized non-conforming females who expressed their own opinions as witches or heretics. In contrast, the poets and writers associated with the school of Knight, like Marlowe, rejected patriarchy and celebrated the goddess in their poems and plays. In the early 1620s, Henry Adams joined an expedition with John Smith, the explorer and colonial governor of Jamestown in Virginia, whose life was saved by Pocahontas, and scouted the coast of New England for a more temperate, less fever-ridden region to start a new colony, leaving England after a wave of persecutions against the dragons. Adams, his wife Edith Squire, and their family arrived with an early group of settlers in the Mass Bay Colony in 1632. They settled in Braintree, outside of the main Puritan hub in Boston, and site of Marymount. Several years earlier, Thomas Morton from Devon, and undoubtedly a dragon, had established a new settlement on land given by the Algonquins, the native people of that region. Making friends with the Indians, Morton set up an 80-foot tall maypole around which his all-male community danced, sang, and enjoyed intoxicating spirits. Their dancing and intermarriage with Native American women totally scandalized the Pilgrims and the Puritans. Leading the Plymouth militia, Captain Miles Standish chopped down the maypole, arrested Morton, and banished him to a cold, uninhabited island in New Hampshire. With food provided by native people, Morton survived. And after returning to England, he wrote a book entitled New English Canaan, condemning the Puritans for their near genocide of the surrounding tribes. It was at this site, later known as Quincy, Massachusetts, that the Adams clan settled and outwardly conformed. But the spirit of the dragons, as shown by John Adams' act in laying the tombstone for his ancestor, was engraved on his own mind until the very end of his own life in his late 80s. As a founding father, John Adams helped orchestrate the American Revolution that another dragon, his second cousin, Samuel Adams, sparked by organizing the Boston Tea Party. As a leader of the Continental Congress in Philadelphia, John Adams was on the committee that composed the Declaration of Independence. Adams strongly opposed slavery, and the first draft of the document condemned it, but it was stricken out to satisfy delegates from the southern states. 8 of the first 10 presidents of the United States, including George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe, were slave holders. Only 2, John Adams and his son, John Quincy, never owned slaves and promoted their emancipation. Even Benjamin Franklin, a great icon who was otherwise very enlightened, owned slaves. John Adams also drafted the Constitution of Massachusetts that formed the model for the United States Constitution, which has been in the news lately, as we all know. It guaranteed freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly. Throughout his life, John Adams consulted closely with his wife, Abigail, on matters of state. They named their Quincy farm Peacefield, and she joined him in Paris when he was ambassador to France. She famously wrote him a letter during the Continental Congress in which she pleaded, "Remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of the husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion, and we will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation. That your sex are naturally tyrannical is a truth so thoroughly established as to admit of no dispute. But such of you as wish to be happy willingly give up the harsh title of master for the more tender and endearing one of friend." The Adams were the first family to live in the new White House in Washington, D.C. Their New England cuisine was relatively simple compared to the Washingtons and the other Southern planters. They enjoyed codfish cakes, corn chowder, gooseberry fool, that was an old dessert or custard, and pumpkin pie. John, who lived to be age 90, the oldest president until the 21st century, just recently, attributed his longevity to Abigail's homemade pickles. As the nation's second president, John Adams' policy toward Native Americans, unfortunately, was less than his anti-slavery views or his egalitarian marriage. In his inaugural address, he pledged a policy of equity and humanity to Native Americans, but during his term, he established the Indian Territory in 1800, granting settlers nearly 260,000 acres of land in the Northwest Territory over the objections of the Indigenous Confederacy. As this little diagram shows, that whole territory from Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, that was all frontier at that time. It was Indian Territory. Though dimmed by the abuse and neglect of Native Americans, the torch of liberty was passed down by John Adams to his son, John Quincy Adams, who, as the nation's sixth president, promoted a series of what he called lighthouses of the sky, or astronomical observatories, to survey and study the heavens, glancing at ancient megalithic wisdom. As member of the House of Representatives, John Quincy later led the movement to end slavery and strongly opposed the Mexican-American War. In subsequent generations, educator Henry Adams and his brother Brooks, grandsons of John Quincy, carried on the dragon tradition in their influential writings on history and art. In his meditations on Chartres Cathedral, site of older pagan mysteries in France, Henry addressed the mother goddess. In his masterpiece, Mont Saint-Michel and Chartres, he lamented the, quote, mindless dynamo, unquote. That's referring to an industrial engine that has displaced the divine feminine, and he saw civilization hurtling toward destruction in the early 20th century. World War I came several years later, of course, followed by World War II. Another direct descendant of old Henry Adams, a generation after the American Revolution, was Pelatiah Adams, who was born in Canton, Massachusetts in 1794. In 1815, Pelatiah married Lucy Upham, whose ancestor, John Upham, had crossed the Atlantic early in the 17th century. Their daughter, Lucy, was a baby when she accompanied her parents on horseback to the Western Reserve. You can see again from the map going from Massachusetts to Ohio. It was a long way. It was, I don't know, 7, 8, maybe 1,000 miles. In Hamden, a little village, Dr. Adams practiced medicine on the frontier for the next 4 decades. His wife, Lucy, became a healer herself and was acclaimed for her knowledge and use of Native American remedies. On one occasion, she healed a man of rabies, an unheard of accomplishment in the era before vaccination. Their daughter, Lucy Adams, married Philo Pease, whose picture is in the center of this slide, the descendant of another pioneer English family that had come to New England in the early 17th century and worked as farmers, small tradesmen, and shopkeepers. Philo was a disciple of Reverend Sylvester Graham, the early American health reformer and founder of the American Vegetarian Society, who preached the gospel of unbolted or whole wheat flour. Philo also invented the square tin can in which maple syrup is sold, replacing an older, more cumbersome round container. Philo and Lucy Adams Pease were the grandparents of my maternal grandmother, Lucy Adams Pease Williams, who was born in Chardon, Ohio in 1890. Growing up, I knew that my mother's side of the family was distantly related to the Adams clan in Boston. But until this year, when I was doing genealogical research for my book, I did not discover or realize that it extended back many more generations directly to Henry Adams, the original patriarch of the family and the dragon. Nor did I know that I had a great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather directly related to the School of Night, including Christopher Marlowe, Thomas Harriot, and Sir Walter Raleigh, about whom I have been writing for many, many years. Ironically, I edited Andrew Werthovius's original article on the Adams family and megalithic wisdom that appeared in East West Journal many decades ago, but I didn't connect it with my own family at that time, nor was it until a few years later that I first heard Micho lecture on the spiral of history, the significance of the constellation of Draco, and the precession of the equinoxes. The only time I've ever invoked my connection to the Adams family took place about 15 years ago when Edward Esco and I went into Boston to visit Sam Adams Brewery, which was named after Sam Adams for his starting the Boston Tea Party. The brewery is the country's 6th largest beer company, and we met with the head brewer and sought to convince him not to use GMO ingredients in their beer. And they were very receptive to our pleasant surprise. And they ended up playing a vital role in our campaign to prevent GMO rice and wheat and other grains from being introduced in this country. The 25,800-year cycle, known as the Great Year, or the Platonic Year, is a cornerstone of modern macrobiotics and is now coming to a climax with the end of the spiral of history in roughly 2036, just 15 years from now. After discovering I'm a descendant of Henry Adams and a long line of farmers, healers, and independent thinkers, I can now understand better why I am attracted to keeping alive the celestial and terrestrial wisdom of the ancients and balancing the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Modern society has a long way to go before it rediscovers and reintroduces megalithic practices such as telepathy, telekinesis, which means mind over matter, such as moving large stones into place, or teleportations, spirit communication, and many others. But a reawakening of interest in healthy food and energy healing are laying the foundation for spiritual renaissance and constitute the first step. Through the Amber Ways grassroots network and various publishing, educational, and culinary activities, along with many friends and colleagues, I've sought to honor the simplicity, temperance, and perseverance of these ancestral spirits, striven to pass along their virtues to posterity and to keep America and the planet beautiful, healthy, and peaceful. Okay, so that ends my, I was going to say my sermon, my presentation for this evening.
That was great, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, I should mention, we also have another dragon in our audience tonight, Brian Smith. Are you there, Brian? You may have to unmute yourself. Is Brian there? He was there earlier. Anyway, Brian is a very distant cousin on the P side of the family. And we just discovered we're related this past year.
Yeah, I don't think he is there.
He was there earlier.
I know, I saw him earlier too, but I don't see
Yeah,
him.
well, I have to alert him. Maybe he can watch the recording. Anyway, he's all into this genealogy.
Very good. Thank you, Alex. Fascinating. Fascinating journey. Yeah, are there any questions from anybody in the audience or anything that anybody wishes to address? And Donna, if you could show your book actually, because I don't have it, so I don't know what it's called. Yeah, go ahead, Donna. You made yourself muted again.
Okay, this is my new book. It's called Let's Act Like Rice, Creating Health and Happiness Through Food in Everyday Life. And in it, you will find lots of information on chakras, crystal healing, macrobiotic recipes, some breathing techniques and exercises, and lots of health tips. It can be found on lulu.com. You can see that. You go on lulu.com/shop, and in the bookstore, just search the title of the book, Let's Act Like Rice. And the premise of the book is that when one person gains strength from eating grain, we entangle our lives with others to strengthen the whole. So creating just stronger families, stronger communities, and hopefully a stronger world.
Yeah, one grain, 10,000 grains.
That's right.
Anybody else? Any questions, any comments?
Donna, congratulations. It's
Thank
Carol.
you.
Yeah, and is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon, but it's best to buy it through Lulu.
What's
Yes.
Lulu again?
It's lulu.com. And you can search their bookstore for the title of the book, Let's Act Like Rice.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thank you. One quick question, Bettina, for the discussion groups, am I logging in the class before and staying logged in?
That is, it's the same link the whole day. So whenever you log in to that link, doesn't matter.
Okay.
So yeah.
Good, thank you.
If there are no other questions, then of course, for anybody who wishes, there is still the possibility to sign up if you haven't signed up already for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And, if you can't afford the regular fee, contact me. And anything else, Alex?
No, I think that about does it. I think we've covered the basics for this evening. I'm looking forward to your class tomorrow morning.
Well, thank you. I am looking forward to seeing everybody, and I hope you all have a wonderful night. Rest well, and see you tomorrow morning with bells on.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
It's good to see you all.
Excellent. Donna, can you just put your email in again to me? I want to get your book, but I need a little help.
Sure. How do I do that?